process discovery methods and opportunity assessment. Okay, a lot of people complain that they have selected the wrong process for automation. They have selected a process which is taking longer than returning any ROI. A lot of people has complained that they have selected the process and after selection of the process in the mid of the development they identify that this process is not suitable for the automation, right? So that they are through midway and then they identify something has gone wrong and we have selected the wrong process need to be automated. So that's the reason there is a concept called process discovery, or you called it opportunity assessment, right? So in the first phase where we prepare a RPA, there is a process discovery methods that has been done with the help of BA and RPA developer to understand that what should be automated, what can be automated, what we can't automate, and all those things. The quadrant that you look at the right side of the PPT, there are 4 blocks. Some of the processes may be of low complexity. Some of the processes may be of high complexity. Some of the processes have, low complexity and the low benefit. Some of the processes can have, high benefits and the low complexities. So based on this decision, all of the processes that you have into organization lie into these 4 quadrant. This is called magic quadrant of process discovery. And which one need to be taken first is the one which is low hanging fruits. And then you should go for the quick wins. And then you should do the must do improvements. And then at the end you should do long term improvements. How these get defined? We have an Excel template where we do some certain calculations, and that template is again depends on the basis of the requirement from the different departments and the different organizations. But I'll show you a sample template where you can calculate these values. Okay, before moving to how we calculate these values, what type of process it is, whether the process is complex or the process is of low complexity, or the return on the benefit will be high or return on the benefit will be low, let's look at what should be automated. Can we automate everything that we do, or we can't automate it, right? So if you look at these 5 lines and keep it in mind every time when you start automating anything, are the steps being repetitive? Are they being done over again and again? Are we automating a process which is repetitive in nature, or is it a only one time activity to be done in a month, or only one time activity to be done in a year? If it is a one time activity, it is not good for the ROI and automations. You might be end up automating a process and where you spend so much time in automating a process that the results and the benefit cannot be achieved, right? So you need to ask certain questions before you start automating a process, right? The first thing that you need to ask is, are the steps are repetitive? Are those steps are time consuming? Even though it is repetitive, are they taking only 2 minutes to do? If it is only 2 minutes to do and we will need 120 man hour to develop that process, there is no need for that process need to be developed, right? Think about, for a development of a process you need 2 RPA developers, 1 BA, 1 PM, and lot of infrastructure cost, and you are developing a process which runs few days a year, and that's only take 2 minutes. So you need to quantify before you automate it, right? You also need to look the process from the risk side. Mostly in the banking and financial environment, there are a lot of processes where they are repetitive in nature, and they involve high risk. Say for example, if payment has not happened in 15 minutes, you need to be fined and all those kind of stuff. These are good because human will be doing every time, but there might be the chances that there will be a manual error, right? But if it is done by a robot, there will be reduction of a risk. So all those processes can be taken into consideration for automation, not only the repetitive steps. If there are tasks which is of low quality, you need to also look about from that front. You also need to look about the task which involve multiple people and multiple steps and everything else. I mean, when I say everything else, that means I'm talking about multiple applications. I'm talking about the multiple departments. So if there is a process which require involving between the multiple people at your department, multiple steps, and then multiple people at a different department, those processes are must to do, because that will be saving a time of lot of people, right? So these are the few considerations that you do before what should be automated and what can be automated, right? We understand that this is to be automated, right? But can we automate that? There are a lot of processes in the organizations which are well defined and rule based. Those can be automated quickly. But there are some processes which require human intervention. There are some processes which are badly designed and defined. So in those cases, we need to improve the process first and then automate. So there is a concept of called process mining. So you need to do process mining first. You need to improve the process first and then automate. So the concept of optimize before automate comes into picture, right? So before automating, you need to optimize the steps in the process. Are they well defined? Are they rule based step? Are all the application that is used in automation are stable? Are they not changing? Because RPA works on UI elements, and if your application is changing every 15 days, your RPA process automation will not give a good result. Take the example of Facebook. If you want to automate something using the Facebook UI, and Facebook UI is changing every quarter or every month, then your automation need to be tweaked to update the selectors, tweaked to update the changed screen the other day. In that case, your effort will be high to automate the process. Instead of using the UI, you should use API, right? So lot many considerations, and continue from where we are discussing, right? We understand that what should be automated, anything which is repetitive, anything which is time consuming, anything where high risks are involved, anything where you have multiple people from multiple departments are involved should be automated. But saying should be automated doesn't mean that this could be automated. We need to think through what all applications are involved in that automation. We need to think through what kind of data is getting processed into the automation. Are the input which is coming into the process are structured or they are unstructured data? What if the output system is not accessible? There are some trading and risk application. Although you can automate the process, but there is a regulatory requirement that the system cannot be used by robots, right? When the benefits are more than the cost and all those things. So you need to consider all these important points before you start seeing what can be automated and what should be automated. Now here we'll look about what are the questions that you need to ask when you are discussing with the business SME or a process SME or a business analyst, right? These are the part of opportunity assessment, and these are being mostly handled by the BA, but you must understand these things, because on the basis of these, the performance of the RPA is need to be calculated. Okay, you all with me, right? Yes. Yeah. So these are the four quadrants. Yeah. And in the four quadrants, we'll be asking different questions. So what are the questions that you can ask for? As a RPA developer and RPA BA, so sometimes there is a single person who is acting as a RPA BA and RPA developer as well. So in those scenarios, these questions are important. So the first thing that you need to ask is, are the input which is coming into process are standard? Are they structured? Are they, they are not a scanned document, they are not coming from social media stream, they are not coming from all those things. How data input happens? Is that happen through the interface on UI, or is that happen through the interface of API? Does this process require using any scanned images and handwritten documents? Because that requires a different technologies of OCR. Some of the OCR that is given by the UI path might not work with the handwritten document. So in those cases, you need to consider a third-party OCR given by the Abby or Google or some other vendors providing the OCRs. Does this process require text capturing or data scraping from other site or third-party sites? Right? Because on the basis of these inputs, you should be able to define the complexity of the process, how complex your process is. And the more the complexity of the process, the benefit will be less, right? So on the basis of all these questions that you're gonna ask, you're gonna identify the process will be of high complexity or a low complexity. We'll look that into the next slide. But let's move into the second quadrant of what are the questions you should ask for the process matrices. And this is these terms and terminologies are pretty important, because most of the interview questions will be coming from these texts. A lot of people has asked exactly the same question, that what are the questions that you will ask when you do a opportunity assessment and the process assessment. Then you need to tell all these things, right? So the process matrix will talk about how many numbers of FTE, that means full-time employee, those are currently supporting the process or those are handling this process. What are the number of transactions and the cases coming on day-to-day basis? How the process is running into production? Is it running monthly? Is it running weekly? Is it running daily? Or is it running 24 into 7? How many number of cases are coming on a daily basis? Say for example, you are automating a call center. How many calls are landing up on a contact center on daily basis? How many contact center employees are employed in the process? Are they 3? Are they 5? Are they 10 members? All those kind of things you need to ask. Then you need to also ask, what is the average handling time, which is AHT, right? So that you understand the complexity of the process. And you also ask about the number of steps that's going to taken into the process. Are the number of steps less than 100 keystrokes and clicks, or are they higher? If they are higher, are they involving multiple applications and all those things? Then you talk about the process description, right? You talk about what the process is exactly. Are the processes rule based? Do we need to include some AI and ML capability? Is the process is using any code or any automation, and what kind of technology behind it? You need to understand the high level description of the process from the process owner. You also need to understand that the system or the applications that you're going to automate is stable and it's not going to go away in next 3 and 6 months. Because say for example, you are automating a SAP today and SAP new release is planned for your organization in next month, your automation might break. So all those things you need to understand by interviewing the process SMEs, and you need to document these things into PDD, and this will be getting documented. Usually BA gets all this documented, but yes, we need to understand this. One important thing here is you need to know percentage of unknown exception. What is a type of known and unknown exceptions that is coming into the process? Because we always talk about the happy path. If this happened, do this. If this happened, do this. If this happened, do this. But we never talk about if something goes wrong, what need to be done. And a good process automation says it should not be only capable of doing the happy path. It should be also capable of recovering if something goes wrong. right? So these are the few things that you ask in a process description. Then you ask some questions related to the IT environment. What are the technology and system considered? Are we going to use our own credential or there will be a system generated credential? Are the credential that is being used by me is being used by somebody else as well? Or what is the password retention policies, right? Are there any steps or any automation already there? Is in somebody from the IT team has automated some step and can we leverage that? You can ask about is there any script or any some con job or some others PowerShell scripts are already there which is automating these steps. If that is the case, you can leverage those and automate and include them into UiPath workflow. It will save you time. Then you also talk about the test environment. There are scenarios when there is a only one production environment and there is no test environment. In those scenarios, how you can test your automation? Are the application that you're gonna use in automation is used by VDI or is it available locally on your machine? Because the development cost for the VDI and Citrix environment will be different and the development cost for the application which reside locally is different. So all by considering all these factors, you come at the point where you are capable enough to decide what kind of automation it is, whether it is of a low complexity so that you can develop in 1 to 2 weeks, whether it is of medium complexity so that you can develop in 3 to 4 weeks, whether it is of high complexity so that you can develop in 4 to 6 weeks. And this complexity calculations comes from a template called opportunity assessment that I'm gonna show you, right? The only thing that you need to consider here is based on the complexity of automation, a timeline is being given. So when we say a low complexity process, in general, a low complexity process is one where you should be able to record the steps and do small customization thereafter and the automation is ready. Say for example, you want to automate some email automation. You can simply record the steps using UiPath recorder, do some changes into variables and then your development is done. Those are of low complexity, can be done by junior developers as well. And it can be easily done in 1 to 2 weeks. But if a process is of medium complexity, when I say of medium complexity, that means that requires a data transfer between multiple applications. There you need to understand the structure of data into one application and the structure of data into another application, right? And then you need to design different test cases because you are connecting to different systems. So those kind of processes are of medium complexity and usually take around 1 month of development effort, right? Similarly, when there is a process which is of high complexity, where some of the steps you can do easily with the UiPath tool, but for some of the steps which requires heavy data manipulation, you need to write some small, programming codes. You need to write some .NET codes, or you need to integrate with a third-party API, or you need to work with different integration of Microsoft Azure, Google, or any third party. All those processes comes into high complexity and they require 4 to 6 weeks of development time, right? So on the basis of these three quadrants, you decide the development time. So for the low complexity, you have 1 to 2 weeks. For the medium complexity, 3 to 4 weeks. For the high complexity, 4 to 6 weeks. And questions remain the same and the factors remain the same. You ask question, the process is rule based or not, what is the process type, what are the standard input and what are the known and unknown exception, and what are the business benefit that you're going to achieve out of these complexities, cost savings, productivity gain, business agility, quality improvement and error reduction, compliance, regulatory requirement, auditing, customer satisfaction. Right? Any doubt here?